And Roby Helm back with you from Hialeah Speedway in Hialeah, Florida. And we've got car number 91, Mike Garvey, back out on the speedway, and what has been pretty much a crash fest for the first 14 laps of the RC Cola 100. Let's go to Doug Rice in the pit area with a report.
Roby, Mike Garvey was in just moments ago, and they pulled all of the front nose assembly off of that car, trying to get more air into the radiator. As you could see the steam pouring out of his car when he came into the pits a moment ago. They did exactly the same thing for Jeff Burkett. They pulled the nose off of his car, and Nevin Jenkins has also come back into the pit area now. The number 3 machine, which was involved in one of the false starts at the start of the race, and you can see the steam percolating out of the radiator on that car, and they've removed the front nose assembly from that. So there seems to be a plague of cars with overheating problems. What has happened, a lot of these cars, and Bobby Gill can probably address this, have gotten crimped up early on, and with the crimping up of the front end, there's been no air getting into the radiators. Consequently, these cars have been overheating, and they've been filling up the garage area, although this particular car of Nevin Jenkins received a lot more serious damage in one of the early race false starts. So Mike Garvey, Jeff Burkett in the pits, but back out onto the action. And right now, one of the top qualifiers for tonight's race, Jimmy Cope, and his 15 machine in the pits, and they're working on the left side rear assembly. So it looks like a myriad of problems for Jimmy Cope, and we'll diagnose his problems a little bit more in detail later on tonight. Meanwhile, Nevin Jenkins' battered machine limps back into the pit area here at Hialeah.
Thank you very much, Doug Rice, for that report in the pit area. Roby Helm with you in the booth. Mark Bishardi alongside, and joining us, 2 veteran drivers that are up here in the booth with us. Bobby Gill and Bobby Brack is joining us. And Bobby, we are seeing a lot of, I don't know if you'd call it extracurricular activity, but a lot of contact out there on the speedway.
Yes, to me it seems just a lot like a regular Hialeah night. It's a very tight track. It's very fast for a flat track, and there is a lot of contact. Generally, there's a lot of contact. It's more or less just a regular Saturday night at Hialeah, I think.
But when you look at a 100-lap race like we have here tonight, do you think it's unusual to see it this early?
Not really. I think probably they should be, a little bit more cautious at the start, such as the thing with Randy Fox and Jimmy Cope. But no, I don't really find it unusual from, the Hialeah standpoint.
This is the type of racetrack where you got to get spots when you can get them.
Definitely. It's most races here are really cut and dried almost from the go. The cars are so equal. The speeds are, everyone's running just about the same, and it's very hard track to pass on.
And we've got the signal. We'll be going green this time around. Randy Fox on the point. Larry Rajero moves up to 2nd spot with Jimmy Cope going to the pit area with mechanical problems. Larry Raines moves up into the 3rd spot. Mario Gosselin in 4th. 5th is the number 12 car, Steve Christian. There you see Randy Fox, car number 4, opening up about a 5-car length advantage over Larry Rajero in car number 17. You got Larry Raines holding down that 3rd spot. Mario Gosselin, the point leader, in 4th, and he's had a rough evening tonight. He was involved in a couple of the 3 or 4 tangles that we've had, as Mike Garvey still trying to work his way up through the field, involved also in an early tangle. So a lot of the favorites, Mark, caught up in some of the incidents earlier on. Daryl Shilnut was been sitting backwards in the racetrack tonight, so I don't think we were trying to comment. Not too many cars out there that are looking like they have not been damaged at all. I think everybody's took a turn.
Well, we expected to see a lot of sheet metal damage tonight, but we didn't really expect to see this much this early. Mario Gosselin's luck is still with him, like he's had the last 4 or 5 races, because when he spun out down there in turn 2, he could have been right in the middle of a big melee.
Boy, that's for sure. And Jimmy Cope, as Doug Rice mentioned from the pit area, did go to the pits. He was running in 2nd, and Bobby Brack, do you think that he might have suffered some damage in the spin that he took early on one of the starts when Randy Fox got into the back end of him? Looked like he took a pretty wild ride through the infield.
Yes, I think he might have. I think he probably drugged something on the, when he went off the racetrack, probably drugged something in the grass, the air box or something. Maybe got closed up, possibly.
On a track like this, Bobby Brack, you've got a lot of laps on this speedway. When something happens in front of you, Where's the best place to go? Try to make the move on the outside, or try to head through the grass?
Well, probably most times the grass would be the place to go, but as it was stated earlier, there are ripples around the turns, and it could do a lot of damage to the underside of the car if you tried to get off at that point.
And we understand the number 78 car has been the black flag, Joe Taylor, out of Miami, Florida, and Marca. A real interesting story there with Joe Taylor.
Yeah, I talked to Joe, and Joe climbs out of a wheelchair every time he climbs into this car. He was in a shooting accident a few years ago where it was home invasion. He got shot in a home invasion incident. He's paralyzed from the legs down, so he climbs out of a wheelchair every race and climbs into this race car.
Well, a gentleman that's got a lot of courage as we're looking at Daryl Shelnut battling with John Crow in car number 38 as they battle for the 6th position on the racetrack. And if anybody knows this track well, it's Daryl Shelnut in car number 7. He's won a lot of big races here, Mark.
Yeah, he has. He's very familiar with this racetrack. And he's one of the few we talked about that might jump to the outside. There are only a couple that'll be able to.
Daryl Shelnut currently in the 4th spot in the Hooters Cup point standings. Dick Anderson not in the field tonight after a practice crash yesterday. Mike Garvey having problems earlier on in the 3rd spot. And if Daryl Shelnut's looking for a place where he can move up through the point standings, this would be the place for him.
Right, he is very familiar. He was looking forward to coming here because he felt like this is a track he could excel at. You have to run here a few times to be able to get the feel of this racetrack.
Yes, definitely. It's as we stated earlier, it is a very tough track, and Daryl's one of the young guys that are now running the Hooters series that actually learned how to drive at Hialeah Speedway. He started here in the street stock division.
And you know, in those earlier crashes that we had, I think a lot of the Hialeah veterans like Mario Gosselin and Daryl Shelnut, I think they pretty much know what to look for on things like that. And maybe they might have been anticipating a lot of those crashes there at the beginning.
I think so. I think that they've run enough races here at Hialeah to actually realize what happens. It's a very common occurrence of things that are happening. They're looking for it.
Randy Fox out in front, and Bobby Brack, a driver you've raced many, many years with in the number 17 car, Larry Rajero. You've been in a lot of these situations with him where you're leading the race and Larry's been behind you. What do you think he's doing right now? You think he's just biding his time and waiting for the right opportunity, or you think he's trying to go as fast as he can to stay with Randy Fox?
No, I'm sure that Larry's probably just biding his time. He's a very crafty driver. I think in time he may capitalize, or possibly I'm sure that he will. He's got more time on this racetrack probably than any other driver except for myself.
We talked earlier during the Formula 2 car race that on this racetrack you have to combine patience with aggression. You have to be aggressive, but you have to be patient at the same time.
Definitely. It's as we said, it's the speeds at the end of the straightaway are very fast, or fairly fast. The turns are tight, and it's a very flat racetrack, and parts almost is banked in the opposite direction.
There we're looking at Mario Gosselin in car number 10, currently running up in the top 5, running in 4th on the Speedway. Steve Christian is 5th. Directly in front of Gosselin is Larry Raines in car number 37. And Mark, it's good to see Larry Raines having a good run tonight. Well,
Larry's been steady all year. It's just he hasn't had the luck of the draw. The situations haven't been right for him. He's got a good position tonight, and he seems to be running well.
Larry Raines in the Palmetto Training, Wood Car Racing, Chevrolet Monte Carlo out of Cumming, Georgia, the number 37 car. He's been around a while, a real veteran, and boy, he got into the back of Rajero there, and I think that Rajero did a nice job of saving that race car, Bobby Brack, because it looked like he almost lost it there.
It looked that way to me. As you said, he did a very good job of saving it. And with Larry Raines, I watched Larry Raines earlier, and he really couldn't pick the groove on the racetrack up immediately. Watched him through practice and time trials, and now he seems to have it pretty well in hand.
Got a pretty good guy to follow there to find a groove.
Yes, he does. Larry's one of the best, and it'll definitely help him. But he looks like he already has it in hand as far as the groove. Excuse me.
Randy Fox out of Fort Myers, Florida, car number 4, the Hooters Chevrolet. He's kind of had an up and down year this year, Mark Bishardi, but now he's running out in front. And I talked to him earlier, and he said this is the kind of racetrack to where if you can start on the pole position and get that lead in the first lap, you got probably the best chance of anybody else in the race to win it.
Well, there's an old adage a lot of people use that I'd rather be lucky than good. And with the draw of the pill tonight, Randy Fox had that luck going his way.
Bobby Gill, Randy Fox running out in front on a racetrack that there's a lot of guys behind him that got a lot more experience on this racetrack. And I know that you've probably been in that position a lot traveling around the country where you go to a new facility, a new racetrack that you don't have that many laps on. Does it put a lot of pressure on you to be out there in front knowing those guys behind you know all the moves at the track?
Well, it does. I mean, Randy ain't been racing that long, and you know, I've been doing it a long time for a living, and you know, when I go to the racetrack, you know, you want the local guys to be the favorite, but as professionally, you know, I go out there and do what I got to do. But Randy, I followed Randy today in practice, and we was faster than he was, but there just ain't no room there to pass, and it's hard to pass somebody. You got to beat almost a half a second or more to pass a car here.
That's a bunch on this racetrack, Mark, a half a second faster to try to get by somebody. So Randy seems to be keeping everybody behind him, and the caution flag is out. Looks like we've got trouble coming off the second
Steve
turn.
Lamb. While we got a caution out, I'd like to ask Bobby Brack something. I talked to him earlier about his son racing in this race, Keith Brack, but he'd rather talk about his grandson. He's got a brand new grandson that Keith gave him, and
Yes, I do. He's 1 month old today.
And you've been to North Carolina 3 times to see him?
Yes, I've been there 3 times in the past month. You know, to see the baby and also to watch Keith race at Concord a little bit.
Have you checked his grip out to make sure he's got a good grip for the steering wheel?
Well, he's a little young for that, but, you know, possibly he might come along and give it a try, too. Not real sure yet.
So tell us about Keith. How's Keith coming along since he moved to North Carolina?
Well, Keith has really not had that much experience in North Carolina. He's run for a little bit at Concord and a little bit down to Anderson, South Carolina, and Livonia, Georgia. But really he hasn't had that much success. He started in they call it limited. I guess it's limited.
It's the late model stocks.
Late model stocks, excuse me, I'm sorry. And he started there, and he just, in the last month, he picked this ride up with his new car owner, Jim Jenkins. And Jim wanted to come down here and run this race. And really, you know, they just, this was where Keith started. He learned how to drive here also, and they thought they might have a pretty good chance.
Well, you got to be proud of him to not try to run in on your shirt tails, you know. I mean, he's gone to a different part of the country to race where people have heard of Bobby Brack, but they don't know a whole lot about him.
Definitely. I mean, it's hard for, you know, anyone to start off anywhere in any division. And, you know, if he were to stay here, maybe I could, you know, give him a little bit more help. But being there, it's pretty tough. He has to do most of it on his own.
I imagine you get some phone calls, though, don't you?
Oh yeah, certainly, and you know he's Robert Hamke's helped him quite a bit, and you know a few of the other fellas, and it's as I say, if he were here, I might be able to help him a little bit more, but maybe only to a point too. And you know maybe he might show me a thing or two.
Field getting the 1 to go signal, I believe, coming up. No.